Lin. So we're here to really discuss the chapter on retaining Generation Y. So just figured we'd start off with something different, and then we'll go into discussing, some interesting statistics. What are some of the things that companies can do to retain Generation Ys? Most of our age groups here, and then Lilin will go into a case study, which we'll have an interactive discussion on. So just wanted to kind of give a quick Seinfeld episode. I'm sure everyone here hopefully is familiar with Seinfeld. Really, the whole topic on really retention and holding things. So hopefully you guys enjoy this.
Do you have my reservation?
Yes, we do. Unfortunately, we ran out of cars.
But the reservation keeps the car here. That's why you have the reservation.
I know why we have reservations.
I don't think you do. If you did, I'd have a car. So you know how to take the reservation, you just don't know how to hold the reservation. And that's really the most important part of the reservation, the holding. Anybody can just take it.
All right, so that was, Seinfeld episode on, pretty much again, how do we retain Generation Y? So how do we hold that reservation, similar to what he's saying? It's the whole concept of what are the things that we can do in order to hold people. I just wanted to kind of point out a quote there that was on the in the book with regards to retaining employees. Really, the best way to find how to retain employees is to find out why they left in the first place. Some companies definitely have exit interviews. If you've left a company and have exit interviews, really wanted to get an understanding as to why you left the company. Was it something that the company can do better in the future for future employees? So I thought that was a very interesting quote. So let's look at some statistics. This was from 2001 full-time state employees with regards to turnover rate. And I thought it was pretty interesting. 60% of turnovers happen under age 40. 52% turnover within 2 years of service. So it kind of goes back to when we had a discussion earlier, do I stay 2-3 years and then leave the company? So what are some of the things or reasons why you think us as Generation Ys would have left those companies? Why the turnover rate is so high?
Moved on to something better.
It's the easiest and most effective way to get a raise.
You might be trying to find yourself, you've been at the company for a while. Is this what I really want to do?
Right. So is this something that the company? Is there anything that the company is not doing? Why? Okay.
Try new experience, try new things.
Okay. Being promoted. So those are some interesting themes. One of the things that they talk about is the employer didn't value my work as a Generation Y. Wasn't really offered more responsibility here. I've been offered responsibility elsewhere. Technologically, the company isn't just growing technically, and they just didn't feel recognized or weren't being rewarded. So, as a company, what are some of the things that we can do or what they can do in order to retain Generation Y? So how do we retain Generation Y employees? One of the first things to do is to value their work. Interesting statistic, 500 people were surveyed, and this was actually the number one reason why Generation Y employees left. So as Generation Y employees, companies need to realize that we're young and less experienced, but however, we're eager to learn and really looking to add that value to the company. So what companies need to do is to really, find some way in order to get us engaged by demonstrating that value of work. That really motivates us as Generation Y employees to actually stay with the company. Secondly is career development, which is pretty huge. This was actually the second highest response that was given on that survey. Again, as Generation Y, we're eager, we're thirsty to learn and expand our skill set, but companies need to find a way in order to support those needs. And some of the ways in order to support those needs are coaching, mentoring, job rotation, and training. But with regards to training, when you think about training, it should be really more highly interactive. So take, for example, you can compare, I compare this class to my stats class or any other class. This is really a very highly interactive class. I find that I actually learn more with this back and forth conversation as opposed to just sitting in class and really just taking notes. So I think from a training perspective, that's definitely one of the things as Generation Ys that we really absorb. Third is really providing greater responsibility. So how can they have Generation Ys focus on improving themselves? Because we definitely thrive on responsibility. We're actually known as a do-it-yourself type of a generation. They actually had another survey where 48% of Generation Ys wanted to own their own business, 50% wanted to be a millionaire by the age of 35. Now, if you look at the recent Forbes listing that was out there, you saw the guys from Facebook that were out there. They're definitely within our age group, within Generation Y. So you definitely see Generation Ys taking charge and really being a part. That survey really stands out with us really trying to make that money in such a short time frame and being very entrepreneurial. One of the things that companies tend to think by this is by me giving them responsibilities that they won't lead. But that's really contrary because you're really giving them multiple projects, you're having them manage the projects, and in that case, you really show that they're adding value to the company. So that's really contradictory to what most companies think. Other thing is technology. And again, as we mentioned around technology, is how can companies keep us focused with regards to speed, customization, and making things more interactive. So as Generation Ys, we were raised with the birth of the internet. Everything, www, blogs, Facebook, MySpace, all that stuff, we were raised with that. And companies need to embrace that technicality, that savvy, in order to retain their employees. If you came into this class at the beginning of the semester and you had a chalkboard and a piece of chalk, I think we would have a completely different feel of what this class is, as opposed to us being able here to present with the presentation, have our computers, have wireless technology, and so forth. So it's a different feeling when you think about that as how companies utilize technology to really retain Generation Ys. Lastly, reward and recognition. So one of the things here, if you think about, as we also grew up with games, PlayStation, PC games, Xbox. One of the things that we don't realize is that it's actually establishing some of our work styles. When you're playing those games, you're receiving constant feedback. It's setting clear expectations as to what you really need to do. And it also provides that continuous assessment and reward as you kind of go through some of the stages within some of these games that you play. So thinking about that interactivity is really shaping some of our work styles as we go into the workforce. So as companies, we really need to provide that recognition more frequently, not just the regular annual performance review. Really, provide other types of recognition rewards. Be an email from your boss, having small rewards recognition programs. Those type of recognition rewards as companies definitely helps gauge that for Generation Ys. So what are the other things to consider as in order to retain Generation Y? Job security. We definitely want to have that reassurance of job stability. Given with regards to economic downturn or anything like that, what does the company have in place in order to make sure that my job is secure? With regards to making sure the company operates at the highest level of integrity. You think of companies that has downfall in the last recent years, such as an Enron and stuff like that. You don't want to work for a company that doesn't live up to that level of integrity. Job safety. We think about post 9/11 environment that we're in. What are some of the steps in place that companies have in order to make sure that I'm safe in this environment? We've all lived through it, so those are some of the things that we go through. As I'm sure you see us having more frequent fire drills in our company, in our offices, and stuff like that probably didn't happen before 9/11. And then lastly, we want this fun, family-like work environment. So as we mentioned last class, Google was brought up. Flexible schedules. A company that I worked for before actually had a rotational program where you work one day out of the week from home. Working remotely, that's definitely some of the things that as Generation Ys we look to have, because the feeling is, from a technical standpoint, we're still getting the job done. There's no need to really be cooped up in a cubicle every day when I know I can work remotely. We can have this flexibility around work and we can actually get the job done. So those are just some of the things that other companies need to consider when it comes to retaining Generation Y. So we have a couple myths that were brought up in the book, and we figure out how can we demystify some of these myths that we have about Generation Y. So myth 7, as I'm going in number order how it is in the book, younger generations are impatient. So that's really not wrong, because as Generation X and Y, everyone's impatient, but we're just the first people to talk up and just speak out about it. We're not looking at Generation Ys, to the discussion that we had before, not looking to play those traditional rules of staying in that company for seniority, and I'll move my way up within the 10, 15, 20 years. We're looking to add value now because we know that we can add value now, and we have the proven skill set in order to get there. Next myth, as Generation Ys, we can't add value. So the thought process is we're young, we're inexperienced, and there's really nothing much that we can add in order to really bring the company up, which is actually wrong, because when you think about companies going forward and how they want to progress, technology plays a big part into it, and that's where we come in. Where we've proven that we can actually apply ourselves when it comes to technology, and that's one of the myths that we have to demystify when it comes to Generation Ys. So, with all this, and we kind of wrapped up all this, what does that really say in essence? Summarizing everything is, as Generation Ys, we really want to make some significant contributions. We're not into the wait to see how it goes type of a mentality, and we want to receive clear expectations, getting rewards and recognition as well. We want to find that path, towards achieving those proactive results. So you kind of wrap that all up, and you think about Generation Y. That's really what we want. RESPCT, to quote someone familiar. So Li-Ling will go into the case study.
So, how do we apply what we just learned from Dwayne? Let's take a look at the case study. Pretend you are a human resource manager at Savings R Us, a bank in the Midwest. Your coworkers come to you complaining about the new summer intern, how he's always late, he never answers company calls, he's always on his cell phone, and he's very disrespectful. And you approach him about this. Tell him how it's important for him to be on time and how he has to follow company guidelines, but he still hasn't done so. What should you do? Well, it's easy to fire him for being lazy and disrespectful, but it's better to keep him and see if he improves, because maybe in the long run he'll be an excellent worker. Assuming that your coworkers are from Generation X and your intern is from Generation Y, you have a clash between generations. Of course, there's going to be a clash between generations because they have different work ethics. You have Generation X here, where they show respect based on age, title, and years of experience. You have Y here, shows respect based solely on the fact that you deserve it. The fact that he's fairly new, no one really has shown that they deserve respect, so he doesn't really show it. Simple as that. So if you do decide to keep him, how do you make things better? Well, for one thing, you have to make sure that the complaints are legitimate, because often enough Generation X employees come to work earlier than usual, so it may not be because your intern is coming in late, it's just that your coworkers are coming too early. But if that's not the case, and he is coming late on purpose, he may not feel that his role in the company is important. Because one of the main motivators for Generation Y employee is that their work has to have value. Because not only do they want to know what they need to do, but why they need to do it and why it's important for their company. Because Generation Y are also known as Generation Yers. Once they see that their role is important and see that their role has meaning to the success of the company, their attitude towards the company will improve, and their work ethics will improve as well, which will make everyone happy, including the intern, your coworkers, and yourself. And that's how you retain a Generation Y employee, and that's how you bridge the generation gap.